The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
The City Council evening session is now in session. Roll call.
Carlson. Vieira. Maniscalco.
Here.
Hurtak. Goods. Miranda.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion
To what? To waive the rules?
yeah.
So move to waive the rules for first
Second.
participation.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Open public hearings.
Move to open all public hearings.
Second. Motion to move open all public hearings by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion carries. All right, agenda item number 1. Let's go through the agenda, please, because I know that there is a continuance. And I believe that is, hi there, thank you very much.
To the March 23rd, 2023 evening hearing at 5:01 p.m. and this is for AB 22304.
Move to continue item number 5. March 23rd, 2023, 5:01 p.m.
There is a motion been made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Is there anyone in the audience, thank you, Mr. Shelby, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to that continuance only of file number AB 22304 to the continuance only? Do we have anyone online? Thank you very much. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, I believe City Council got an email as to what was happening with this case, so I just want to state for the public, the motion to continue it to March 23rd, 2023 at 5:01 p.m. has been granted, and there will be no further notice being mailed out to anybody who was going to be interested in that meeting, so they should make a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shelby. Okay, agenda item number 1, file number E2023-8, chapter 27.
Good evening, Council. Eric Cotton, Development Coordination. This is a text amendment to Chapter 27. I have a very quick PowerPoint to run through just to highlight the changes. These were first introduced to Council in June of 2022, workshopped in September, October, and December, and now we're before you for adoption of the hearing for the first reading of the text amendments. First one is alternative design language for 27-60. This would require notice to everyone involved. This is citywide. Basically, the overlay districts and special districts allow for design acceptance for setback requests. This would require notice as per 27-149, which is a typical notice, the 250 feet, the sign, and the neighborhood associations or participating organizations. Adoption of 27-181.2, which is the procedures for the DDRs, which are the design, the downtown district design reviews, which is how downtown developments get made, get constructed and built. A change to the West Tampa overlay district. As you recall, there's a lot of, the code requires people to use alleyways when possible. When they come, sometimes a lot of people do ask for waivers from that requirement. If there is a waiver granted, either administratively or by council on an appeal from a denial from the zoning administrator, this sets forth code requirements. And the last one is access onto non-residential access onto local streets. As long as you're within 150 feet of the arterial or collector roadway, you could have access onto a local street. I mean, and this is the example that we use. This is the Tahitian Inn property where their access is within 150 feet. And if council has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Can you go back to the first one?
The design exceptions?
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
This should be a supplemental notice, correct?
Correct. This is the public notice, like if you do for a regular variance, it would be the same notice that would go out for that.
Can we give a more specific change to actually say that it is a supplemental notice?
Well, it's an amendment that said it refers back to 27-149, which is the public notice, which are the public notice requirements for the city. So on the, it's specifically for setback reductions, and it refers back to doing notice per 27-149, as all public notices are done in the city.
I don't know. The feedback I'm getting from the community is that they want to know it's a supplemental, an additional notice.
Well, right now, no notice is required at all. So this is instituting the requirement to have notice.
Okay. And I actually talked to Mr. Benson about this before. The next one.
Which is, I put them out of order, so hold on one second. The DDR process or the
No,
West
the
Tampa?
design, okay, you put them out of order.
My slides are out of order. They were in order when I was putting them on the slide.
Okay.
The district design reviews or the West Tampa requirements?
Design exceptions. So actually then, hold on. Can we go to the one about setbacks, please?
That's the first one.
That was the first, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
then that is correct. So the next one is design exceptions. And I was talking to Mr. Benson about this. Not the downtown district design. Oh, Mr. Benson, which one were we talking about?
The design
It
exception.
was the first one? Okay.
Yes.
Because this is the big issue that I have with this. We need to just not approve for setbacks. We need to do it for everything. Like anytime there's a design exception. And I say this as a former neighborhood leader. I was actually talking to Mr. Benson about a very particular property that I just noticed the change on when I'm walking my dog. And things that I know aren't allowed in the Seminole Heights Overlay District. And we get no information on why it happened, how it happened. So every time there's a design exception, the neighbors need to be notified of it.
Okay.
And this is only doing a setback notification.
Yes, ma'am. This is strictly what this is.
So I'm fine with the setback notification. However, this needs to go further. I would like to put in additionally and Mr. Benson and I talked about different ways we could notify the public, but we have to be able to notify the public and neighborhoods about all of these design exceptions until we have a better handle on the code. And in theory, the Seminole Heights overlay was supposed to prevent a lot of these design exceptions from happening. That is not happening in our neighborhood. Therefore, how could it be happening throughout the city that doesn't have nearly as strict standards as we do? So it's just very frustrating for neighborhood leaders who are doing this on their volunteer time to keep up with what's going on in the city. So while I do support the setbacks, I really, really want it to be for all design exceptions going forward in the future.
And we can bring back another text amendment in the future
Yes.
for the next, the next cycle, which will be.
Yes, and Mr.
July.
Benson and I spoke
Right.
about that, but I wanted to make it clear that, yes, this is great for setbacks, But everyone, and the examples I was giving him are, in overlay district in Seminole Heights, you're required to have, if your garage is attached to a house, it has to be a certain number of feet behind the front door and ribbon driveways. I mean, the problem is we don't have a lot of definitions in the code for some of those things, and that's where people can get around stuff. So we need to close some loopholes, make sure that neighbors are aware of these design exceptions so that if they have problems with them, we can handle it before they just see it being built.
Understood.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments?
The last
Councilman
photo-
Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. The last photo you have was at the Chick-fil-A on Dale Mabry property?
Correct. It
And
was,
tell me why you showed that photo. What example are you using from that?
where'd it go?
It was the last page.
So this is just an example of access onto a local street. This
Okay.
went through a planned development. What this would allow by right, so there's a discouragement by FDOT and by city mobility to take people off, to not have so many driveway cuts.
Yeah.
This would force people to go onto the local street to access the street instead of making a quick turn, coming in down, you pass this exit with this, what is this, on Westdale Avenue, and then boom, you have an entrance right afterwards.
Now, when you say non-residential access to local street, what did that mean? Because I was here for this vote. Didn't we have a sign saying no left turn into the neighborhood, right? At least on the
On the
Dale
PD, there might be. I don't know
Okay.
specifically for the PD.
sign. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Councilman Carlson.
How is this being handled now, and does this mean that all these would just be approved administratively?
This right now, this comes before council as a plan development
Yeah, we approved.
to get access to the local street.
No, yeah. So- And, but what would, so it would just be approved administratively?
This would be allowed, this would be, if for some reason they cannot have access to either the state road or a main, arterial collector because mobility is recommending against having another curb cut 50 feet from here or 100 feet from here, it would allow people to have access onto the local street. More of a safety concern with mobility.
Have any of these been, I know we're not really doing private ones anymore, but have any of these been requests because of specific projects?
For the text amendments, no, these were brought forward by staff in June.
But
They were initiated by us.
But it could be initiated by the staff, but at its suggestion of a particular project?
Not these, no, these were not suggested by the
All
public.
right.
Any other questions? Thank you. Is anyone in the public in chambers want to speak to agenda item number 1, file number E 2023-H up to 27?
Good evening, City Council.
Good evening.
You know how I hate this. I just want to say I have a lot of problems with,
Ms. Sanchez, we all know who you are, but for the record, please. your
oh, I'm
name.
sorry, Sandy Sanchez, 2705 Fig Street, community activist. How about that?
No.
Anyway, I have problems with, especially the design exception text amendment. I have problems with the public notice. What Ms. Hurtak Councilman Hurtak was saying is true. This says 27-241, it is just general on public notice. But if you hone it down to 27-24-241-C1, it covers that it is a supplemental notice and also that it is a mailed notice. So that's the first thing I think that should be edited in this text amendment. The other thing I have a problem with is this procedure. I know that this procedure to have a reviewing official handle design exception was put in place to take some of the burden of the council, but they are hidden from the folks that are being affected by their decisions. This department is part of city staffing, paid for by tax dollars and the citizens of Tampa. They contribute to that. We have a right to know when someone of our neighborhood is applying for an exception. The handling of these design exceptions need to come out of the closet and into the sunshine. That's why we ask that all design exceptions, not just setbacks, include a public mailing And that will it won't increase the amount of work for the city staff. If they have 20 design exceptions, they still have 20 design exceptions. The burden is put on the applicant as it is now. Nothing changes. It'll slow down the process, but we all know the city does not move quickly. So what I'm asking you is to have them send this back and come up with some revisions that will make everybody happy. If you vote for this tonight and they say they're going to come back, we'll pay holy hell to get them back here. So please, I know it'll delay the process of getting the public notice to everybody, but it shouldn't be setbacks only. Just like Councilman Hurtak was saying, it has to do with everything that happens and the surprises that come. Sometimes we don't even know a piece of property is sold. If we don't have a design exceptions, we have nothing. So I'm asking you to please ask them to research this and change this particular amendment. Any questions?
Councilman Goods.
Mr. Cotton? I have a memo here from Ms. Sanchez. I'm sure all the councilmen have received it. Did you receive this email from her?
No.
No.
Let me enter it in the record then.
Move to receive and file.
Motion to receive and file by Councilman Maniscalco,
It's
seconded by
not a
Councilman
quasi
Conklin.
judicial, but you're all
It's
welcome to
an
it.
email that was sent to
Email was
everybody.
But you're welcome to it.
If you could show it to Ms. Sanchez, so she knows, and you know what they're referring to.
Okay?
Can you see it over, is that the email?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I'll just, if we could just, when you're done with that, we'll just give it, unless I.
And the reason I asked, I didn't know if Mr.
Okay,
Cotton
and-
had
and-
seen that or not, because
Excuse me,
I.
Mr. Goods. Councilman Goods, sorry, we still have a motion on the floor.
And I hit on some of these points. There's some of them that I didn't hit on,
Receive
and the
and
fact that I think that they should be out in the open. Like I said, this department is an extension of you. The decisions that they make are decisions that you should have made. So that's what we're asking for.
There's a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco to receive and file, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposition? Motion passes. Did you have any further questions?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Were you able to skim over the
Yes, sir.
notice? And Ms. Hurtak is writing what she's saying. And I do think that staff needs to take a look at what Ms. Sanchez has written us. I think it's kind of important. I do think it's important that we look at this. There's some valid points in all of this from section 1, first part, second. And again, I assume that you guys have received it, but I think maybe a second look may need to be looked at in reference to this.
I mean, Sandy and I have discussed notice more than one occasion.
We discuss design exceptions for the overlay areas only. But from the time I talked to him and tonight, I decided it's not just for the overlays. It should be everybody that knows the design exceptions that are going on in their neighborhood.
I will concur. All right, I just want to see if Mr. Cotton saw it. You have any pros or cons in reference to what Ms. Sanchez is saying, Mr. Cotton?
No, I don't have any pros or cons on it. I mean, part of the, I understand where Ms. Sanchez is coming from, but, you know, just, part of the question is when you give notice, what are you accomplishing? Is it to give the ability for somebody to just receive notice, or is it to give the ability for someone, if a roof pitch is supposed to be 412 and they're doing 312, to appeal that decision if it's approved administratively and come to council? That's what that's part of the notice issue. So when you do receive notice, if you're participating, if you're an aggrieved party within the 250 feet, you know, the person could then come before council and y'all would have the ability to decide whether a 412 pitch is not appropriate, or a 312 pitch or a 512 pitch is appropriate, kind of thing. Those are some of the ones that would come before, could possibly come before you.
But the process now does not allow that.
Correct. The process now is,
If I get a notice and somebody tells me it's the roof pitch, either I or anybody within those 250 feet can make the decision. Do they want to call this department and talk to them and ask them about the details of it or not? But as it is now, we don't have the ability to make that decision because we don't know.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez.
Mr. Shelby.
Yes, and Mr. Cotton, maybe you can confirm this. What would also be different would be that it would come to council not in the form of a PD, that somebody would have to go through the PD process. It would come back as a review hearing that you see for a review of a decision from the zoning
Correct. It would be a
administrator.
petition for review that would come
So it would
before
be
you.
a quicker and less expensive process than coming in for a PD, is that correct?
That would be correct. It would
Okay.
come in as a PD. I mean, it would come as a petition for review.
Thank you.
And then
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Another issue with this, and I think Ms. Sanchez is trying to reach, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that sometimes when we do find out about these design exceptions, it will depend. Sometimes they're approved, sometimes they're not approved, and we don't know why. Again, I say we, I mean, talking about my time as a neighborhood leader, you would never know why a design exception was approved or not, and never really get the chance to have that conversation. And I think what this does is open up the conversation for the public to understand why, when looking at two properties with the same design exception, why was one approved here and one disapproved here? And that's one of the things that the public and neighborhood leaders struggle with. So I think by opening up design exception notifications, you are really empowering the public to understand how things happen, not only in the overlay, but particularly in the overlay, because as we look at land development code changes that are coming, we need to look at the current overlay districts, try to fix things there first, because we're going to see more overlay districts, I'm predicting, when we look at land development code in the future. And if we can fix the land development code we already have, or the overlay and the notification process in more specific, detailed overlays, then I think that would be better for the city overall when we're looking at general, if that makes any sense.
I understand. I just want to make council aware, we still do publish the Tampa Cares newsletter that lists all the councils, and there is an online source on our webpage that you can narrow down to your neighborhood and see every time something is applied for in Acela as a design exception, a rezoning, a variance, whatever, it will pop, the minute it's accepted by staff, it pops up on the GIS map. That is on our, that's like the main map on our page that you can view, and anyone can see what's going on in their neighborhood, just as another source beyond just the notice.
The problem with that is also that not everybody is digitally alert, astute, and can run to those. I mean, I've been doing Acela now for the last 15 years, and I'm still stumbling over it. So even if you're familiar, you don't. But the biggest thing that I think is the necessity for transparency. You all have pushed for it from the administration, and we should push for it now because, like I said, this is an extension of what you do and what you would normally be approving. Why is it behind closed doors? Why aren't we notified? And here's the other thing. I have one that Mr. Cotton and I have been talking about. If I had known, and the only reason we know is because somebody was there doing a survey, if this had gone through, we would have gotten the setback only. There are 4 other issues with it, okay? So if we had gotten the setback only, at least it gives us a reason to look at that file and to see what the other things, the other waivers would be needed for it. So it doesn't just stop there. It opens up the discussion for the entire project.
And I will agree with that, but also Acela right now is, quite frankly, a bit of a hot mess. So we've had the Builders Association in front of us. Like, Acela right now is not something that I would really encourage neighborhood leaders to, I mean, no, it's, let's be honest, it's more difficult than it has been. It can get better, and they're working on that, I know, but we really can't assume people, A, know how to use it, and B, that it's gonna be used correctly, because right now, again, we're even hearing from, when we're hearing from the builders and the public that something isn't working, that's always a really good sign that it isn't. So, I tend to agree, that we really need to look over again the ability to give more notice for design exceptions. That's just something that, and Ms. Sanchez is right. It's an extension of what we do. That's a really good way to put it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councilman Maniscalco.
Can we make a motion that we send this back, since it's coming from the staff, instead of voting it just up or down and killing it?
If that's council's pleasure, if you want to ask that it be amended. Mr.
Okay.
Cotton, can you advise?
So,
Ms.
Susan
Johnson
Johnson,
Velez?
Velez Legal Department. So what I would suggest, and I understand council's concerns, you want to expand the notice for all design exceptions and not just setbacks. But this gets us one step closer in that direction. So while staff is processing another amendment to pick up the other types of design exceptions that can be requested, you will still have the notice in place for the setbacks, as it's stated tonight, so that we don't lose time.
Mr. Shelby.
Just a question, Ms. Johnson, and perhaps it's a question for Mr. Cotton. The way the code is structured, it's set into certain cycles. So the question would be, is there any way to expedite that, or would it have to wait? And if council does approve this tonight, as it's presently structured, how soon can it be changed and implemented? And then the question would be then, if there's any way to be able to expedite that, if that's council's pleasure.
Well, hearings are sort of, it could be expedited. The only problem with that is, so on March 2nd, we're supposed to come back, Stephen and I, with proposed text amendments for the January cycle. And those are then scheduled, if council chooses to move forward on those, late March, we're supposed to have our public information meetings. Then it goes to the planning commission, I believe in either April or May, and then comes back for adoption roughly June. This would not be able to be on that cycle. This would have to run on its own cycle, because we just won't be able to get it scheduled to work out with in front of the planning commission meetings and such. That's the only thing. I mean, I would recommend moving forward with what's here, which is a notice requirement for setbacks and such. We can come back in July, which is a typical cycle we would run on for all the other notices for design exceptions. Now, keep in mind, when we do design exceptions, that includes, because of the way we process them, shared parking is a design exception. So the parking leases that Susan she reviews for when somebody's doing off-site parking, those could come before you on an appeal. All those kind of things could actually come before council. And that's up to your discretion if you want to have all those kinds of hearings.
And if I could
Mr.
just,
Shelby.
one last question from my end, please. If it were to enter the July cycle, then what would ultimately be the effective date of the amendment that Ms. Sanchez was requesting? How long would that take from the July cycle?
Yeah. So theoretically, December 2023, December, beginning of January, depending on how things get scheduled out. This was part of the cycle that we brought to you and workshopped in June, so this was part of the January 2022 cycle. Well, no, it was workshopped in June, yeah.
Hey, Mr. Shelby, do you have another question?
No,
If not,
I see one coming, but that's okay.
It's Ms. Hurtak has had her hand up, and then we'll go to Councilman Goode.
I think I have the same question that you do, because, so this is all we're asking is to change this one that's in a current cycle.
It has to
So-
go back to the planning commission because it's a language change. And it has to be, based on the way council rules and how we process those, it would have to go back to the planning commission for their recommendation. We would have to have at least a public information meeting about it, like we do for all these. Then it has to come back. So it's not just you change this and we bring it back for second reading. It doesn't work that fast.
But we're too late for the January.
Correct. The January cycle is going to be workshopped. It's on the agenda for next week. For the small changes that we're making.
Who creates that?
The cycle is by code.
No, but
Oh.
who creates what goes on the cycle?
There's, the ones that are going in the next cycle, like these, are staff initiated.
Okay, staff
Yeah,
initiated.
there's no more
Okay, so
privately
there's
initiated
staff.
text
Okay.
amendments, or privately initiated text amendments.
If I could follow up, it's also council initiated, and council, Mr. Cotton, council has initiated.
Yes, council
and
can initiate
has done
it.
that. I remember at the time, that was put into the code, and it's been codified, that process, because it created a structure that allowed staff to orderly be able to present by groups through this process of going to the planning agency and having a recommendation, then it come back to council in order to implement it by ordinance, and that's been codified. So, for instance, an exception to that is procedural matters. If there's something procedural, then that could be expedited, but something that's substantive, like this has to, as Mr. Cotton says, go through the process that's been codified. It must be, what, 15 years or more by now, I would think, that's been in place.
Would imagine, I wouldn't quote myself on that.
Okay, thank
May I
you.
just say one more thing?
Ms. Sanchez, please come up to the podium so you can be heard.
Remember, I'm talking about the design exceptions that go to be reviewed by one person, not the ones that are coming to you are already in the CARE newsletter. These are also in the CARE newsletter, but next to the date, it says not applicable, so you don't know. You get to guess, or you get to call Eric and ask him. So what I'm talking about is the ones that are going to this particular department that need to come out into the sunshine, and by doing that, they need to have the notices sent out to for all of them. I understand the procedure, and it would be lovely if we could strike out setbacks and put all, but apparently there's a procedure. But what we're asking for is the ones in particular, because they're the only ones we don't know about, are the ones that go to this department. And one person is making that decision behind closed doors.
Councilman Goode.
So, Mr. Cotton, why does that need to go back? I mean, it seems like it's just a small verbiage change in what we're asking.
Because it's a text amendments, the planning commission reviewed the language they reviewed, this would be a change. When changes are made to text amendments, to language, they usually go back to the planning commission for them to evaluate as the land planning agency.
What is the time frame? Or let me ask this quick. What's in the cycle right now that's going to the planning commission that this could be added on to that?
We have, Stephen and I did a memo to actually have a hearing next Thursday on the 2nd, the proposed text amendments, that the changes that we were going to be proposing. Those would then, if this went through, that would be part of that cycle, which would be adoption sometime probably August. So, you know, if we go that route, you know, you have to, basically council has two options. You can approve what we have, and we can initiate the other text amendment for the next cycle. We can pop it on that March 2nd, or you can just postpone this entire thing, and we can try to move it forward for that. So now keep in mind, we talked about this in June, September, and October. Now we're back in end of February for the adoption.
To me, it sounds like an add-on. I mean, if you're
Unfortunately, text amendments are not that simple, though. It's not,
I get it, but you're saying you're going for a review next Tuesday, right?
No.
Correct?
Next Thursday, we
Next
asked
Thursday.
to come before city council for the text amendments for the next cycle. And those when they start moving through the general hearing cycle that text amendments all run through. Now we could, if council wants, you could, like I said, you could adopt this tonight, and you could initiate when we come back the next cycle, and that would go through the change to include every kind of design exception could be put into the next cycle. If that's something that council wants to do.
Ms. Johnson-Velez, you were heading toward the podium?
Thanks, Danny.
I just want to add, this is Danny Collins with the Planning Commission staff. Because there is a change in the language, it does need to go back to the Planning Commission for their review, so this would require another Planning Commission hearing.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Since what we want is just to change the language to all, is there a way that can be part of what's coming on Thursday instead of having to go through like all of this stuff to start in July? Because you're telling me the next planning session starts in July, but if you're coming in front of us next Thursday with this, I think what he's saying is, can we just change that language super fast and get it into this cycle so we're moving?
We could, but keep in mind that means adoption is like August.
This is the perfect time to talk about the conceptual, right? Next Thursday?
Absolutely.
Mr. Benson?
We have a request to add that item.
Please state your name.
Stephen Benson, we have a request to add that item on Thursday to bring you 8 amendments as part of the January cycle and present them in concept. I think we have discussed in concept already today what you would like to see for a 9th amendment. So we can bring that, but it's not currently in the memo that was transmitted to request next Thursday. So I just want to clarify, right, if you're directing us to bring it anyway, then I think that we could probably prepare the conceptual sheet and bring that as the 9th one on Thursday.
I would be fine with that.
Then what is the pleasure of council? Steph, Ms. Pointer, are you on the line?
She's not here for that.
Yeah, I think so.
What's the pleasure of council?
I think we should make the motion to
If I can. I'm
bring
sorry
the
to
seventh
interrupt.
one back next week.
My suggestion is this. If it's council's pleasure to go forward on this, complete this public hearing, if there's no members of the public, close it, do it for first reading, separate motions.
Well, no, the motion, we can approve what's here tonight.
Yes.
But we're saying that we're gonna have a
Correct.
ninth
Conceptual,
conceptual design for
The next cycle,
approval
right.
for the next cycle. And we're just gonna slide it in there, as the ninth for next week.
It will piggyback together.
Yes.
if it's at the pleasure of council, but I don't know if council has set the hearing for next week yet.
No, that's a motion, but they did not, just so you're aware and the public's aware, that there has been a request for a motion to be made under information reports and new business.
Okay.
This afternoon's information reports and new business are going to be taken up at the end of tonight's meeting.
Can I just
per
make it?
council's decision.
Should I just make that now?
No,
No.
please. What you have before you, so it's clear, you're in the middle of a public hearing on this ordinance. You understand conceptually what's going to happen. Staff understands conceptually what's going to happen. This is going to be able to be adopted at second reading and adoption well in advance of the process that what's going to be coming next week and beginning is going to ultimately take until when? July, June is what you said, sir?
July-ish.
So,
Yes.
so it's really not piggybacking, but what you have done, based on what I hear, is you are expediting the process rather than it making the next cycle. Fortunately, as the way things are working out, you're able to bring it on to what's going to be presented to you at next week's meeting. Two separate motions outside of this public hearing, please. So just do this one and then a second motion.
Correct. I do have one more thing I want to talk about, though.
On this subject?
Yes, on this particular change for the text amendments. I'd be remiss to go forward without talking about the West Tampa overlay parking situation. I am concerned about this because I know the goal is to get people to use the alleyways. Like, I mean, I know that is the overlay's goal, and so I am concerned about the approvals for driveways without really seriously considering the alley. But if I understand this correctly, that would be one of the design exceptions that would have to come in front of that would have to then, under this new rule, go in front of the public.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because that's my only big concern is administrative approval for driveways, when we're really trying to encourage alley access, so.
Any other comments or questions? Councilman Carlson.
Ms. Sanchez, are you okay if we add the other ones to the, as a ninth item to come back next week?
I'm okay with it if you're gonna follow, if they're gonna follow through with it. I just don't want it to be dropped by the wayside. In other words, oh, we can't do it next week because we don't have time. I just don't want that attitude that, yeah, we'll get to it. It's already gone on too long. I mean, I know we can't, I understand the procedure, I understand why it can't be done, but I just want to make sure that they don't drop the ball and that they come back and give us something that says all design exceptions. It's only fair. And like I said, that also cures the misconception about this department, that decisions are made on a flip of a coin. Thank you.
Councilman Good.
Mr. Cotton, you heard Ms. Sanchez, again, this council's gonna ask you, and she's right, because a lot of times we'll say in the ninth hour, we can't get that done because we don't have time. So I wanna know before this council votes, are we gonna be able to have this, I'll tell you, but Mr. Benson,
Again, Councilman Goose, this is, when we come back next week, it's all in conceptual. I mean, this is not really conceptual because it's sort of, language is already more or less prepped based on this amendment. But yes, as long as the motion is made for us to come back next Thursday, and that we have 9, this will be number 10, there shouldn't be any issue with that.
I see Mr. Benson shaking his head, so I'll go ahead on motion today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else in chambers who wishes to speak, make public comments to agenda item number 1, file number E 2023-8, chapter 27? Councilman Vieira, is that you?
Yes, sir, that's me.
Mr. Chairman.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Vieira,
did
Councilman
my
Vieira is
briefing-
joining us via
Sorry.
internet.
And Mr. Chairman, if we can, just,
If I may, Mr. Chair, for the public, I have a sick son at home, and I had some technological issues over here, so I'm over here at home tonight. So thank you very much, council, for the accommodation.
Mr. Shelley.
that's fine, thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, we want to hear close the public hearing? Motion closed by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item, file number E20238, chapter 27. An ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance in the city of Tampa, Florida, relating to publicly initiated text amendments making revisions to the city of Tampa Code of Ordinances, chapter 27, zoning and land development, amending section 2760, alternative design exceptions, amending section 27-181.2, compliance, administrative authority, general procedures, amending section 27/241, West Tampa overlay district, development design standards, amending section 27/283.12, off-street parking spaces standards, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict within, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. Roll call vote.
Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson. Goulds,
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Second public hearing scheduled for March 16, 2023 at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, while we're on this subject, could I just go ahead and make this motion for the next week?
Unless council wants to wait under new business, but it's appropriate to do it now that staff is here, and then you can actually have the amendment to
Councilman
that
Carlson,
motion.
please proceed.
I would just like to make a motion to add the proposed text amendments for the January 2023 cycle to be discussed under staff reports on March 2nd, 2023, adding supplemental notice for all design exceptions.
Second.
And Mr. Chairman, if we can, if I ask Mr. Benson or Mr. Cotton to state the language based on how you understand it to council, so that they'll, and make that as part of the motion, so you're clear on what is the expectation.
We can take it from the record based upon what's been discussed today and prepare a conceptual amendment based upon the discussion today.
And as Mr. Carlson said, it's related to the notice provision of design exceptions?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Is that sufficient for
Motion made
council?
by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Goods. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 2, file number TACPA 22-08.
Good evening, Council. Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. This is an adoption hearing for TACPA 2208. This is the One Water chapter of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan Update. Much of this information you heard back at your transmittal hearing in December, so I will go through these slides quickly this evening. The One Water chapter is the first portion of the overall Tampa Comprehensive Plan Update. It incorporates key concepts from the community's vision that was adopted by this council over the summer. There was significant public and stakeholder engagement throughout the process, coordinated implementation with city departments, and of note, there was one change in the introduction language and the title page since transmittal. That was a result of DEO comments for clarity for the public, so that change has been reflected in the record. There are 5 goals within the One Water chapter that reflect the broad nature of water resources. This slide summarizes the stakeholder and public outreach on this update. A number of different meetings across the city with different stakeholder groups, both in-person, virtual, and outreach to neighborhood organizations, environmental groups, and various stakeholders across the city. We've received a couple of rounds of agency comments for the update. We have received no objections on the One Water chapter. DEO provided a technical assistance comment, which is not an objection. It's a suggestion for technical assistance for us to add a statement regarding the statutory requirements that this chapter complies with. So we have added that statement into the updated language for adoption this evening. And that is on page 9 and 10 in your packet. It's consistent with the adopted resources section, the existing adopted water resources sections and language. For clarity, there are some representative goals, objectives, and policies here on the screen in potable water, wastewater, and stormwater management. All of the objectives and policies are available in your packet. And your Planning Commission staff, as well as the Planning Commission, found TACPA 22-08 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and adoption is recommended this evening. I'm available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Councilman Carlson.
Just to quadruple check, the pure stuff was not put back in, right?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for your help on all that.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Hurtak.
And again, because of this long conversation we had earlier this afternoon regarding pure, I also, while he double checked that there's no pure in it, this is our this is the plan for us moving forward, and it's still amendable if we need it to be amended.
Correct. We want the comprehensive plan, which is the long-range plan out to 2045, to be a living document. So we want to be able to make sure that this is something that can be modified as needed.
Just wanted to make sure so that the public is aware that if something needs to be changed, it can be. Thank you.
Correct.
Any other further comments or questions? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to agenda item number 2, file number TACPA 22-08? We have anyone online?
Second.
Motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion passes. Councilman Goods.
TACPA 22-08, ordinance been presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan to amend One Water comprehensive planning for water resources that replaces the potable water, wastewater, and stormwater management sections, providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict, providing for salvability, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 16, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3, file number TACPA 22-12.
Good evening, Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is Tampa Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 22-12, and it's located at 5215 West Tyson Avenue. This was privately initiated, small scale, is approximately 6.54 acres, and the request is to go from heavy industrial to community mixed use 35. This is the general location map. It's located within the South Tampa Planning District in the Gandy/Sun Bay South neighborhood, and the entire site is located within the coastal high hazard area. This is an aerial of the subject site. It's outlined here in blue, and the surrounding site This is called Rattlesnake Point, the peninsula, and to the east, this has been redeveloped as the, sorry, I lost my point, West Shore Marina District. And it's south of Gandy Boulevard, and West Shore Boulevard is to the east. This is facing west along West Tyson Avenue, and the entrance is on the right. This is a different photo of the entrance, and you can see the CSX railway. This is facing north of the subject site. This is West Tyson Avenue facing east. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is outlined here in black and is represented by the heavy industrial designation. The pink around the subject site is the community mixed use 35 designation. Further to the east in the purplish color is the urban mixed use 60, and along Gandy Boulevard is the public semi-public designation. This is the future land use map. The site is here and is represented by the pink color of CMU 35. This amendment would allow for residential development on the subject site that is currently prohibited under the HI designation. If approved, there could be up to 228 dwelling units, and it would increase the square footage under the FAR from about 400,000 to 500,000 square feet. The applicant has the ability to use floor area ratio for residential development, so the 228 dwelling units of the potential could be higher if the applicant chose to propose a mixed-use development. It was sent out for agency review, and the City of Tampa had objections. The Planning Commission found it consistent with the comprehensive plan objective relating to Rattlesnake Point to transition from a mix of heavy and light industrial uses to residential and commercial uses. And the Planning Commission recommended that the map amendment be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And this concludes my presentation.
Any comments or questions? I do have one. Planning staff found it inconsistent, but the planning board found it consistent.
Correct.
Reasoning?
We found it inconsistent based on comprehensive plan policies that preserve industrial and also a no net increase in the coastal high hazard area, while the Planning Commission found it consistent with the policy relating to Rattlesnake Point, transitioning from the light industrial and the heavy industrial into residential uses.
Thank you.
I am ready for the presentation. Thank you. Good evening. Elise Batzel on behalf of the applicant Southeastern Development here for this comp plan amendment. This is actually the first time we've heard the industrial comment in the staff report. It indicated that they understood that Rattlesnake Point transition. So I just wanted to make a point of that, because what we're presenting to you tonight is what we presented to the Planning Commission, and it's really how do you weigh when you have conflicting provisions in the comprehensive plan. And I think this was very helpful as you make your decision tonight. Oops. Look at these. Sorry. So you've already heard where this is located. I won't go back through this. This is the chemical formulator site that you have all heard about ad nauseum over and over in the many applications that you have had. I want to take you back just a minute to last May. If you recall, we came before you and we gave you sort of this project vision. The first step was this approved rezoning, which you did approve in May of 2022, phase 1. And phase 2 and 3 would be the redevelopment of the chemical formulator site consistent with the rest of Rattlesnake Point. So this is number 2. This is the future land use map amendment that we contemplated when we originally came to you. So I think it's really important to understand Rattlesnake Point Objective 8.11. It says we are encouraging the transition of the Rattlesnake Point waterfront area from its current mix, when this was written, of heavy and light industrial uses to a mix of residential, commercial, retail uses in a waterfront community in a manner that protects the public's health, safety, and welfare. So just remind you about the transition of this area. Before we talk about the application, the peninsula began to transition all the way back in 2002. Everything that you see in pink is CMU 35. It is already transitioned. I think most of us in this room would agree that it's not about to transition. It has already transitioned. And there are 3 pieces that are left, and we're going to talk about those in just a moment. Today's request, of course, is to change from heavy industrial to CMU 35, the chemical formulator site. So this is one of the last of the proposed areas to transition. The remaining heavy industrial that you see is actually not being used for heavy industrial purposes. To the north is the Army training facility that's directly to the east of this property. And to the south is Hula Bay, which is actually being used as a commercial marina. So the only heavy industrial use on this site is this particular site that we're talking about today. In fact, if you look statistically at the acreage, the percentage, the area designated CMU 35 without this site is 82.6% of the Rattlesnake Point Peninsula, whereas the area designated heavy industrial under the land use category today is only 17.4%. So the Planning Commission recommendation, I contemplated that you might ask that question, Mr. Chair. And the pivotal question was what happens in the comprehensive plan when 2 policies conflict. Fortunately, we have a roadmap, and it is 2 documents that you have to look at. One is Florida law. What does Florida law say about when comprehensive plan provisions conflict with one another? And the other is your comprehensive plan. You actually address this in the text of your comprehensive plan. And I'm going to walk through that for you. There are 4 components of Florida law, and Mr. Vieira can probably pipe in, being a lawyer. The first is if there is ambiguity or conflict between 2 provisions, the more specific has to control over the more general. That's number 1. Number 2, they have to be read in harmony to avoid one of the provisions being rendered meaningless, basically. The third is that you have to avoid unreasonable or absurd results. And finally, the expression of one thing typically means the exclusion of another. It's also really important that the Florida Supreme Court has said that inherent inconsistency in land use regulations must be construed in favor of the landowner. So let's talk about the specific over the general. Really briefly, Rattlesnake Point, all of those policies, and I believe there are 11, 12 policies under 8.11, they all apply just to this small geographic area. Whereas other policies that we talk about, the coastal high hazard or the industrial, they apply to a much larger area of, so here, the specific policies of Rattlesnake Point have to rule, they have to govern. The other thing that is important, and I made this slide last night very late, it's really terrible, so I'm sorry that it's not prettier, but the very important provision is that you can't read them in a way that they're meaningless. And I want to break that down just a little bit because I think it's common sense. If it is true that there could be no net increase on Rattlesnake Point in residential units, and that in fact the policies of the coastal high hazard are really a litmus test, right? That would be a litmus test saying that you can never have residential units. Then how would we ever implement all of those policies of Rattlesnake Point? It says you have to encourage the transition from industrial, heavy industrial, and light industrial to commercial and residential uses. To interpret the comprehensive plan in this way would really render those meaningless provisions. And I have to thank Melissa Zornita for this because during the Planning Commission hearing, she brought up something that I had not even considered. And that is, if we are transitioning from heavy industrial to light industrial, like the comprehensive plan says we have to do in Rattlesnake Point, what are the categories that we could transition to? If you look at the list in the middle, those are all of the commercial and residential categories that exist under the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Every single one of them has a residential component. Do you know how many commercial-only categories we have in the future land use, in the future land use plan, in the comp plan? 0. There is not a commercial category that we could transition to. So again, this is sort of avoiding that absurd result. To interpret it in a way would render all of this meaningless and absurd. But you have another document, your Tampa Comprehensive Plan. It says the legal status of the plan requires that all policies will be considered in making legal determinations of consistency with the comp plan pursuant to state laws, all the tenets of Florida law that we talked about, and statutes. You know, we talk about the coastal high hazard, and we talk about public health, safety, and welfare, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that more tonight. But if you look at all of the provisions that the staff report says support this application, those are all on the left. City design, population increase, mixed-use corridors, Rattlesnake Point, the need for housing, efficient use of facilities, and you weigh those against this sort of litmus test. We're not saying that it's the policy. You have to say that it is a policy to be considered. I kind of want to talk really very quickly about something that we've talked about a lot in the past, and that is the practical public benefit of getting heavy industrial off of Rattlesnake Point. When we came to you in May during the prior rezoning, we promised that we would be back to you with this future land use designation change, and we're back. But I would be remiss if I did not point out from a public health and safety issue that there is a significant benefit here to removing the ability to ever have another super heavy industrial site user on this particular site. This is just the map that shows the chemicals that are trucked in for the chemical formulators use. It could be chemical formulators, it could be someone with a worse chemical, we don't know. But the point is you have the opportunity tonight to make sure that never happens again. And with that, I want to talk about, I turned over to Tina Ekblad to talk about the actual compatibility of leaving this as heavy industrial. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, council members. For the record, Tina Ekblad, Director of Planning with Stearns Weaver Miller. Also for the record, I am a certified planner through the American Institute of Certified Planners. And from a land use perspective, as you consider this request tonight, there are a few things I would ask you to keep in mind. And that is that your comprehensive plan includes a number of descriptor sentences and policies that discusses the conflict between heavy industrial and residential uses that, quite frankly, have occurred through the transition of Rattlesnake Point, consistent with Objective 8.11. Should you decide to maintain the heavy industrial use, given the on-the-ground use of the Army adjacent to us to the east and Hula Bay, this would be the only truly industrial site left on the island, effectively creating an island of heavy industrial inside Rattlesnake Point. And it would be contrary to that objective and that vision to transform the point. The city, as was mentioned, does not have a commercial-only future land use policy. And where that really comes into play and becomes very important is this conversation about public health, safety, and welfare and incorporating residential in the coastal high hazard area. We have no choice but to introduce residential on this site if we are going to transition it away from heavy industrial, because a commercial-only future land use category does not exist. And so we would ask you to keep that in mind as you go through your decision-making process tonight. If we do not do this, the transition of Rattlesnake Point will not be complete. And when it comes to additional provisions ensuring that public health, safety, and welfare are considered and maintained, that is protected by this amendment. Number one, through the transition of the land use category itself. And then number two, there are still very specific policies under the Rattlesnake Point objective that require any development on the island to mitigate its own impacts. And then there are additional specific policies regarding transportation, hurricane evacuation, and sheltering. These requirements are not just words in your comprehensive plan. They have also been implemented into your land development code, ensuring that that mitigation takes place and that public health, safety, and welfare will be maintained and ensured in the future. That concludes my remarks regarding land use tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. We would respectfully request your approval of this amendment tonight.
Any questions for the petitioners?
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience that wants to speak to agenda item number 3, TACPA 22-12?
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Tampa. This council is well aware that I and many other neighborhood leaders have fought fiercely to keep Rattlesnake Point an industrial area. Industrial companies provide good-paying jobs, which are just as important as housing. With all the supply chain and logistic issues this country is facing, I predict Tampa is going to regret giving away land that has both water and railroad access and replacing it with multifamily residential. They gave away something rare and irreplaceable. And unlike many neighborhoods, SOG neighborhoods have been quite happily cohabitating with industrial properties for decades. We love commercial and industrial development for the jobs and because people evacuate from their homes, not their workplaces. Therefore, commercial and industrial doesn't impede emergency evacuations. Unfortunately, we lost the fight for our industrial zones, so we now must deal with the reality of where we are today. And today we have an industrial property on Rattlesnake Point in the CHHA that unfortunately is not a company we can live with. It is Chemical Formulators, otherwise known as CFI, and it is a very hazardous chemical plant. I'm sure you have all seen the horrifying events in rural Ohio where a train carrying hazardous chemicals derailed. I want you to imagine that happening to the CFI trains carrying tons of highly hazardous materials through densely populated areas of Tampa every single day. I want you to imagine an accident or terrorist attack or sabotage by an employee that went off their meds. I want you to imagine those images at the CFI property surrounded by thousands of residences. It is obvious that CFI must go. The developer before you today, Southeastern, is doing things the right way. They held community meetings at the very first stage of planning. They listened to our request for some affordable units. They've met with the neighborhood leaders over and over again to keep us in the loop and get our feedback. Southeastern has a great plan to develop public spaces that other residents of Tampa can enjoy. They're the gold standard for community involvement. All of our lives would be so much easier if every builder had the same attitude toward being a community partner. This is a very rare instance where the neighborhood leaders want a developer's change of future land use. We ask that you please approve this comp plan change. And I just want to note that you probably got an email from Stephanie Pointer saying the same thing. She had surgery today, so she couldn't appear in person. Thank you.
Anyone else in chambers?
Road Seeger, Southeastern Development. Stephanie Pointer asked me to read the following letter on her behalf. Good evening, council. I had surgery today. Otherwise, you know I will not miss this hearing. I have asked Elise to have one of the representatives from Southeastern, or Elise Batzel, to read my speech for me because that is how much I am devoted to their erasing the threat from CFI from our city. On February 3rd, the train derailment in a town of 180 people caused a mass evacuation. A leak of chemicals from CFI could do the very same thing in our city of 400,000 plus people. When the train wreck in Graniteville, South Carolina, with the same chemicals manufactured at CFI in 2005, 10 people died in a nearby textile mill. I called the Graniteville Fire Department. They said the mill was less than a football field away from the train wreck. Think about how the same kind of spill could impact the 1 million square feet of residential already in place in West Shore Marina District. Mr. James Hutt paid for a scientific report about CFI from Fladura process. That report said this isn't safe within 14 miles of CFI. I emailed it to you again this morning. All of you know that I'm against the new apartments in our community. You also know that I have done my homework. This PD is a no-brainer. I don't like apartments, but CFI is way worse. The folks at Southeastern have worked very hard in our community to make CFI go away. It is the best for everyone in our city, not just SOG. This vote to support this comp plan change isn't about CFI, it is about the safety of every person in our city. Please support the comprehensive plan amendment for 5215 West Tyson. Respectfully submitted, Ms. Stephanie Pointer. And I'd also like to submit this for the record.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers? So Taking it that Ms. Pointer is not on the line.
Close.
Okay. You have a question?
Just a comment, I mean, this project has a Stephanie Pointer seal of approval, so move to close.
Motion to close by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Councilwoman Hurtak.
File number TACPA 22-12, an ordinance amending the ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan, future land use element, future land use map for the property located at 5215 West Tyson Avenue from heavy industrial HI to community mixed use 35, CMU 35, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any other further comments, questions? Roll call vote. Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, Marty will cut me off. But just to go along with what the members of the public said, this developer and consultant have spent a couple years maybe working very closely on so many different things, and you saw the hazard goes all the way through South Tampa, and so I just wanted to thank them for all the hard work they've done. There's some developers that come and expect everything from us, and some that bring, in a way, gifts like this. And so thank you for your for working with everyone.
Roll call vote.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson, Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 16, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4, file number TACPA. File number TACPA 22-27.
Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff. This is Tampa Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment 2227, and it's multiple folios generally located west of North Myrtle Street and north of East 97th Avenue. This was privately initiated, small scale. It's approximately 1.45 acres, and the request is to go from residential 10 to residential 35. It's located within the University Planning District in the Terrace Park neighborhood. And it's here on the location map. This is an aerial of the subject site. It's outlined here in pink. And it fronts East 97th Avenue. And further to the east, the blue line is the jurisdictional boundary between the city of Tampa on the west and Temple Terrace on the east. And in the surrounding area, it's surrounded by single-family detached, and there are some multifamily uses directly to the south of the subject site, further to the south, east, and along here as well. This is facing north on East 97th Avenue, looking at the subject site. This is west on 97th Avenue, and the subject site is on the right. This is facing east on 97th Avenue, and the subject site is on the left. And this is looking at the adjacent properties, and the subject site is further to the back with the orange fence. This is the adopted future land use map. The subject site is outlined here in black, and it's represented by the residential 10 designation. The surrounding area of the subject site is also with the residential 10. Further to the south and the east is the residential 20 designation, And further to the east and further to the south with the dark brown is the residential 35 designation. Again, the subject site is here outlined in black and is represented by the dark brown of the residential 35 designation. The potential impacts of the site would allow for an increase in the number of dwelling units and the maximum square footage. Currently, the site can be considered for 14 dwelling units and slightly over 22,000 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria is met. And under the proposed R35 designation, the site could be considered for 50 dwelling units or slightly over 37,000 square feet of non-residential uses if locational criteria was met. And also under the residential 35 designation, it would allow for the consideration of multifamily on the site. We sent it out for agency review and the city of Tampa did have an objection. The Planning Commission found it inconsistent with several comprehensive plan policies relating to promoting compatible development and redevelopment to sustain stable neighborhoods and ensure the social and economic health of the city, as well as maintaining the character of single-family residential areas and protecting low-density single-family areas. With those considerations, the Planning Commission recommends that the proposed map amendment be found inconsistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And this concludes my presentation if you have any questions.
Any comments or questions? Additional?
Mr. Chairman, council members, Todd Pressman, 200 Second Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. I do have a PowerPoint for you. If we could pull that up, please.
We see it.
Not out here. It's not visible in the council room or in the by the visitors.
We have it here, let's see if they can turn it up.
There we go. Thank you for your patience. Mr. Chairman, council members, this is TACPA 2227, 1.45 acres, seeking Res 10 to Res 35. We are located in the university planning area. You can see the location near Temple Terrace. This is the future land use map. You can see that there is a lot of intents in the area from R35 and R20 to CMU 35. Two main points. With great respect to your staff, we feel that they have mischaracterized or misjudged this area, which I'll show you, and that there are many comp plan housing policies that absolutely support this application completely. First of all, in regard to retention and parking and buffers and setbacks, the maximum yield at the site is going to be about 44 units. Of course, the Planning Commission uses a hypothetical maximum without consideration of those elements. So this is requesting, per our math, just about 30 more units than would be allowed now. Now, the Planning Commission makes a very strong point, as a young lady did, is that this is in an established, detached, single-family residential neighborhood. They indicate that, again, it's utilized by single family, which we found to be a mischaracterization of the area. This is a site located here. I'm going to walk you around the block. Immediately on the south, which staff pointed out to you, is multifamily. You can see it here with the number of mailboxes and units. Next door to that, right at the corner, is a number of multifamily. You can see this here again with mailboxes and doors. And next to that is, again, more multifamily. Right around the block, continued multifamily. You can see them here. And buildings continue up the street, as you can see here. Again, coming around the same block, multifamily, you can see the units here. The mailboxes you can see have about, or you should be able to see, have 6 different units, and those two separate buildings, and the multifamily continues all the way around the block. This is a major multifamily area. It is a mixture with single family. And if you look way to the east and to the south, it is tremendous multifamily. And these are directly across the street. Again, the mailbox would show you that there's multiple units, and you can see that here as well. So again, as you heard from the young lady, and the statements in the staff report, is that it is single-family detached, which is not correct for this immediate vicinity. Now, when you look at the 2040 City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, and we consider this area is a median household income of $35,709. We look for the type of housing, which is what the applicant has come forward to, not officially affordable, but homes that are matching the area that people need this level type of housing. Mixed income residential neighborhood. Under land use objective 9.9, efforts to attract residents to live in Tampa must include the promotion of mixed income residential development, particularly in the university planning area, which is underlined. We are in the university planning area, and this is specifically what this land use category or this land use policy calls for. Multifamily residential areas. Increase the diversity and improve the sustainability of multifamily residential areas. That's exactly what this application does. Encourage the development and retention of a diversity of multifamily housing types to meet the needs of the citizens of Tampa. You have not been presented any of these policies as you were presented today by the young lady from the Planning Commission. Land use objective 9.7, provide opportunities for infill development already characterized by low to medium density multifamily development, which is what I showed you. That's what this area is. In the university community area, they want specifically to provide greater flexibility and land use and density for future development while ensuring a wide range of housing types. Policy 9.8.1 from your comp plan, encourage infill products again which are compatible to the mix of homes and small to moderate scale apartment buildings, which is what I showed you over and over again on the slides. Provide new residential development at moderate densities which can fill vacant or undeveloped sites. And that's what this site is. It is an infill of vacant and undeveloped sites. And finally, land use policy 9.8.2, standards for moderate density multi-zones and provide a scale of development ability that differs from those of single family and low density multifamily. That's what this particular area is. As I showed you, single family, low density multifamily, they want a diverse mix of those housing types that match this area of the county. And finally, to present to you, St. Petersburg has moved towards this type of policy, which they call find the missing middle, which is housing types for the area that matches this area economically and for the housing types that people are looking for. A few other minor points. The site has tremendous access routes through numerous roads to North 56 or Bush Boulevard. The roadway going to the site is extremely well signed, noting speed and noting a curve coming up, and that curve is well barricaded and well marked. So in summary, we do feel the site has been terribly mischaracterized with respect. It is supported by many, many housing comp policies that I presented to you. The net increase of units is really low. As I've indicated to you, it'll be about 30 units. Provides a needed housing option, and transportation is safe. So with that, we appreciate your consideration. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilman Goose.
For Planning Commission.
All right.
Did you see the photos Mr. Pressman put up?
Yes.
In your presentation, you characterized that area as one, but his photos depict another.
Correct.
So where's the inconsistency at? I'm familiar with that area, so I want you to tell me the inconsistency.
Okay, so this is the adopted future land use map. Some of the photos that Mr. Pressman did show the multifamily that are along here on East 97th. The two that he showed directly in front of the subject site would be non-conforming, and city staff can speak on that if it's council's pleasure for that, but they would be non-conforming per the plan, and as well as probably predated the plan, but the multifamily that he is referring to is not adjacent to the subject site.
So when you say non-conforming, it means somebody built that and didn't conform to the policy of the city. That you telling me?
It would probably predated the plan.
We did the plan.
Yes.
That's why I asked that question. I'm very familiar with that area of it, so I know what it looks like, what's over there. So that's why I asked that question. All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
You can leave that up if you don't mind. Sorry, I'm very visual, so I like to look. They said, looking at what he said, that currently there are 11 units that could go on that site?
It's 14.
14, okay. But with the change, so currently you could put 14 units just the way it is.
Correct.
And by increasing the density, they could be 44?
And potentially up to 50.
Potentially up to 50. What would that look like? No, I mean, is that an apartment? Is that townhomes? I mean, 1.5 acres is just, that's really, it's vague to me. So what would that look like if all 50 units were there?
So per the residential 35 designation, building heights can go up to 8 stories. So it could be like an apartment complex building type structure, potentially.
So it can go up to 8 stories?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
Can I chime in? Danny Collins with your planning commission staff. Our calculations, those are the maximums that can be considered in those categories. So while he's saying 44 units, these are the maximums based on the density. So the density in the R35 allows 35 dwellings per acre. Under the adopted residential 10, the maximum is 10 dwellings per acre. So that's why there may be a difference in the number of units.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for staff? Petitioner.
Well, let's clarify some points here.
Is there
Yes,
any
sir.
comments or questions for the petitioner?
Yes.
Oh, comments or
Because
questions?
we went to staff, I asked if there was comments for the petitioner. Councilman Good said, I want to go to staff. So now is there questions for the petitioner?
Yes, has the public, I know I had to step back for a bit. The
Not
public
yet,
has
but we
an
haven't had
opportunity-
questions to petitioner yet.
Okay, but this is not his opportunity for rebuttal because
No,
it hasn't.
no.
Okay.
I'm just asking, is there any questions for the petitioner? Councilwoman Hurtak.
Is there a reason that you didn't go for residential 20? Which would be a little closer to the residential 10 that surrounds it.
Well, it would certainly be closer, but an evaluation is made as to how many units really could go here, and what type of demands is going to be. It's a nice community, but it is a lower median income community. So the question is, how big are the units? And that transpires into how many would fit reasonably on the site. So the Res 35 would have a maximum of 50, but of course you can never build 50 because again, you have to provide setbacks, landscaping, buffers, parking, retention. So again, that's why I indicate that the yield will be about 44. So it's a balance of market, area, configuration of the property, and what kind of demand is going to be, which drives the size of the units.
If you went to R10, what would that look like? Like what would be the max you could put there?
In terms of
I'm sorry,
unit-
R20, my apologies.
I'd have to do the math real quick. I'd be a little hesitant to answer that real quick.
Does staff know?
It would just be, how many acres is it?
It would be double the residential 10 designation, so it would be potentially 28 units.
28 units, okay. But yeah, that does question affordability then, doesn't it? Thank you, that was my only question.
Thank you.
I just heard the word
Councilman
affordability.
Miranda.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, I apologize. I just heard the word affordability. What range are we talking about?
Well, unfortunately, I'm a zoning guy. The best
Yeah,
answer
I
I can give
understand.
you is that it would match the median income of the area, which is $39,000.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Affordability is not a question, it's zoning.
In the context of a land use plan amendment, a future land use plan amendment, the concept is relative to the maximum potential development for that site, and there is no provision in there to have any control as to ultimately what becomes of it.
And also, Counselor, you can't even design the place either, and you can't tell them where to put the air conditioning, you can't tell them how to park the cars either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Johnson-Velez.
Thank you, sir. Susan Johnson-Velez, Legal Department. So I did, yes, to Mr. Shelby, to follow up Mr. Shelby's comments. This is a comp plan amendment. The question for council is, as a policy matter, whether the current land use of R10 continues to be appropriate in this area, or whether there's some change in circumstances that would justify changing it to the higher density category that's requested. And so there is no, again, you do have to consider the maximum potential. And I believe I won't talk about the zoning, but you do have to consider the maximum potential, because your statement today, if you approve it, is that up to that maximum would be appropriate for this site in this location.
Councilman Good.
I guess it'd be for planning. And in that area, you have R10 and R20, right? Can you put that map up again?
All right, my papers got all shuffled around. This is all R10 with the light orange color.
I can't see it on here. I was looking for your other diagram. You had another diagram that marked out R10 area, R20. I think you had a. See that back street up there.
This one?
No, I think it's one of the first ones you put up. It might have been Mr. Pressman. It might have been Mr. Pressman. It might have been his diagram. Yeah, I think it might have was his diagram that had marked out the area of R10, R20s, and so forth. So I apologize.
It was Pressman's diagram.
So I don't know if your question is if there are any R20 in the.
Yeah, Mr. President, could you put your diagram back up, sir? You don't mind, sir?
Which diagram did you want?
It had the one, you had them all labeled out R10, R20. I believe that was your diagram I saw. It was somebody's diagram I saw. How about that?
Do you mean this?
It was a diagram and had the layout of, there we go.
Okay. So sites are located here. You have R20, R35, R35, CMU, R35, CMU 35. This is the future land use map.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
Oh, I just wanted to clarify, so the area though where this site is all R10? Yep, okay, that's fine.
Mr. Shelby.
Yes, and if I could follow up on Ms. Johnson-Velez, just a reminder, Council, that comprehensive plan amendments are not quasi-judicial. Competent substantial evidence is not a factor here. It's a fairly debatable standard. It's a legislative matter. It's a policy matter.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd like to respond to staff, or would you like me to do that on rebuttal?
Let's do that to rebuttal.
Thank you.
Please. Anyone in chambers that wishes to speak to agenda item number 4, TACPA 22-27?
Yes, sir. I'm Clayton Chapman, 5011 97th Avenue. I have some documents I'd like to pass around for the record, if you would, please. So as I mentioned, I live on 97th Avenue and pretty much directly across the street from the proposed site. If you look at the first three pictures, this shows you looking on 97th Avenue, looking west towards 50th Street. And the proposed site is on the right-hand side with the orange fence. I'd like to note that 97th Avenue is just 0.1 miles long. It's not a long stretch. It has two 90-degree turns at each end of the road. The proposed site is 20 yards from one of those 90-degree turns. And pictures 4 through 8 show you that turn going on to 97th Avenue from 50th.
If I can, Mr. Chair, sir, if you can, just so the petitioner can also take a look at them, just if you could put them on the Elmo there, or I can get him a copy.
Let's see if I can.
And that way the public can see it as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this was one of the first three pictures that I mentioned, looking towards 50th Street on 97th Avenue. Again, looking west towards 97th or 50th Street. This photo is on the corner of 50th Street turning onto 97th Avenue. The proposed site is 20 yards from that turn on the left-hand side there where the orange fence is. Here's another photo from the same corner, just at a different angle. And here's a third photo of the same corner. And the next photo will show you how tight that corner is with two cars trying to pass that corner. There's very little room on this corner with the proposed site right next to where that white SUV is coming through. So my concern is it is a significant safety concern for this street with the length of the street and the amount of traffic that is currently on the street. The presenter before me mentioned that there are R35 on this block. That is the next block to the west and to the south. There are no R35 dwellings on this street. There are duplexes in front of the proposed site. As mentioned, there are 4 duplexes with 8 families living there. I would say that that's an acceptable build for this size of a site. This road cannot handle an additional 35 to 50 dwellings. It's just a safety concern. The last photo shows the corner on 97th Avenue. The fence has been hit time after time after time, been torn down, run through, and run over. The other concern is drainage. The drainage you see right there is the only drainage on 97th Avenue. So the water flows west to east, and it flows south to north. Where the proposed site is going to be right in that conversion. If you build that property up and without proper draining, what's going to happen to the surrounding community? Another thing is a proposed 8-story building.
I'll give you 30 seconds more, sir.
A potential 8-story building. Those individuals will be looking right down into people's backyards. There are houses all the way around. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers, please?
Good evening, council members. Stephen Walters, resident of 5117 and 5106 East 97th Avenue. The concerns I bring before you this evening are due to the request for the increase in the amount of buildings on 5006 East 97th Avenue to be built. Our street, 97th Avenue, measuring in at 1.1 mile, is a connector for both Myrtle and 50th Street. Both ends of our street, both east and west, have sharp 90-degree turns, both of them posted with 2 10-mile-an-hour signs, one on each corner. For some reason, no one obeys them or even pays attention to them. We also have a brand new 25-mile-an-hour sign posted on our street as well, also ignored. The corner of 50th and 97th Avenue, where the proposed buildings are to take place, is a blind corner, meaning either way, coming or going, you cannot see oncoming traffic. 20 to 35 plus multifamily units coming out onto 97th Avenue at that blind corner would mean up to, if not exceeding, 40 to 70 chances for accidents per day with cars coming in and out of that location. The original 14 units granted is more than plenty for this small neighborhood, with a street measuring 0.1 mile that is used more as a drag strip. For many years, the Terrace Park Neighborhood Association has asked and presented to past city councils proposals to make our little neighborhood roads safer. Speed tables, speed cushions, and speed bumps have all been denied. Reason being, not enough traffic on the street. Adding more houses to the small area isn't the answer. The association also presented connecting 50th Street straight through, adding a three-way stop at 50th and 97th Avenue. Tacoma Trail and Linebaugh Avenues have a four-way stop. Tacoma Trail and Serena Drive just got a three-way stop put in with crossing lines. If or when buildings are built on that property, the corner of 50th and 97th Avenue will definitely need to be addressed. My next concern that I am bringing to you tonight is the water drainage in that area and also the soil health of that property. The west side properties of East 97th Avenue have always had standing water during heavy rains over our rainy season. The neighbor to the west of the property being spoke of has stated when she walks in her yard days after a rain, she can still see, feel, and hear the rainwater in her yard from the poor drainage and rain flowing down from the street and proposed property next door. That area of land used to be trees and swamp area back before 2017. The field in the back of where the four duplexes reside, 5012 East 97th Avenue, used to be a sand field and full of trees. In 2017, 99% of the trees were knocked down without permits. Some of those trees that used to help retain the rainwater and help with erosion are still lying on the ground from being knocked down and uprooted. I'm more than positive with the fill dirt that will have to be brought in to build up or cover up for the poor soil condition that have yet been tested for. The properties on 5006 and 5012 will more than likely cause for more drainage issues for the neighbor to the west and the four established duplexes in front of it. Even with storm drains in the area and even with the new drainage provided by the proposed housing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
3 minutes isn't enough, just to let you know.
Anyone else in chambers? Do we have no one online? No. Rebuttal.
Mr. Chairman, with great respect to neighbors who are here, I have great respect for folks who come down to council. 40 notices were sent out to the neighborhood, and only 2 individuals are here. I think that's a pretty good accounting of the area. In regard to staff comments, the young lady pointed out to multifamily just on this area here. What I was trying to demonstrate is on the block, as they've indicated, there's multifamily here, all the way down here, all the way up here. Approximately about half the block is multifamily. So the character of the area is multifamily and single family. Second of all, the gentleman spoke about an 8-story building. Well, from the zoning, what he didn't tell you is that anything over 30 feet requires the 2-for-1 setback. Now, this property has a lot of linear element to it, so those setbacks are going to severely restrict anything from an 8-story building. I would suggest to you that would be another mischaracterization. There's been no technical presentation of transportation issues. In fact, the gentleman said that the city was not even going to put in humps or other elements because there wasn't enough traffic on the roadway. The roads are well signed, as I showed you. They're barricaded, so they're very safe in that respect. But I think what you really need to, with great respect, I think what you really need to consider are the housing comp policies, which tell you to attract residents, promote mixed income residential development, mixed income in the University Planning District, which this is within the University Planning District, increase the diversity of multifamily residential areas, this is a residential area, encourage development and retention of multifamily, provide opportunities for infill in areas characterized just like this today, the University Planning district specifically, and the University Community Plan specifically talks about flexibility for development for these type of uses. Encourage infill for compatibility. Standards for moderate density multifamily zones should be on a scale that differs from those of the single family and low density multifamily. They want a difference of housing in areas, not just the same. So finally, I'll just say again that the area has routes for transportation to the north, south, east, and west to all the major arterials. They're not just relying upon one particular street. So with that, again, in summary, we've looked at the site as to what would fit best, what the demand is, and what the housing needs are in the immediate area. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. What is the pleasure of council?
I'll go ahead and read it. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance amending the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Element, Future Land Use Map for the property located at 5012 and 5006 East 97th Avenue, and folio numbers 142-830.5025, 142-830.5050, 142-830.5075, and 142-834.0025 from residential 10 R10 to residential 30 R35, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson.
Mr. Chair, if we could bring up Mr. Vieira, Councilman Vieira on the screen, please.
I am up. Can y'all not see me?
No, no, if we, there you are. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe but I'm here.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
No.
Carlson. Yes. Gould.
Yes.
Vieira,
No.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Hurtak, Vieira voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 16, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, file number AB 2-23-06.
Good evening, Council. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. The next item before you is item number 6, AB 2-2306. This request is for property located at 6401 North Florida Avenue. The request is for a small venue, beer, wine, and liquor consumption on premises and package sales off premises consumption. This is a craft distillery, approximate AB sales area.
Madam Clerk has just given me a hand signal. Anyone giving any type of testimony in the rest of these hearings, would you please raise your right hand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? I do.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barnes, please continue.
The site plan is, there's required 10 parking spaces. However, a waiver was previously approved through V 1380 to reduce 4 parking spaces to only require 6 parking spaces. The site plan indicates the proposed hours of operation, which are not changing from the previously approved AB2. Monday through Friday, 4 to 11 p.m., Saturday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Sunday, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. The subject property is located in the mixed-use corridor village, and therefore its distance separation requirements is 250 feet from residential uses and AB sales establishments. The applicant is requesting 2 waivers.
One is to reduce the required distance separation to other AB sales establishments from 250 feet to 87 feet. And the next is to reduce the required distance separation from residential uses from 250 feet to 67 feet. There are several site plan modifications required between first and second reading if approving this application. Staff, however, is inconsistent based on those waivers. And I'm going to give you a little overview of the site. All right, shown here in the red is the subject site. It's located along North Florida Avenue in Fern. So shown here is the subject site along North Florida Avenue and along now along Fern facing north. This is subject property directly west of the subject site. Directly behind, showing part of the subject site. And then this is west of the subject site, and you can see Tripp Steiner in the distance. And this is property directly south of the subject site across Fern. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
This was already a brewery, and now it is a brewery again. What exactly is?
Craft distillery.
So we're changing it from brewery to craft distillery.
Correct.
But otherwise, nothing is changing.
And adding liquor.
Okay, yes,
Correct.
but I mean,
Correct.
but otherwise,
Yes.
it's going to function the same way it's functioned.
Just adding liquor.
Okay.
Correct.
You say spirits? The sauce.
Petitioner.
Hello, Greg Barnhill, representing 6401 Florida Avenue LLC. I have answers for any questions you may have.
Comments, questions?
I just want to ask the same question. Basically, all you're doing is just changing this to liquor, but you're not really changing how this functions.
Correct. The new tenant, Ology Brewing, in addition to beer and wine, are requesting to distill alcohol on site.
Okay, thank you.
And this is your own distilled alcohol, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I have issues with these types of things. Wishing no ill will, but if the business owner goes out of business, this is still going to be a package store, which then means it could turn into selling Bud Ice, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and Smirnoff. So I sometimes have a problem with changing these things in unforeseen event issues that happen to all of us. Any other comments or questions?
If
Is
I
there-
might clarify, there is currently beer and wine.
Yes, sir.
Manufacturing and sales on the site.
And that's beer and wine sales on site,
Yes,
but not liquor now.
correct.
Correct. So my point was, in the future, if you do get the package sales. Any other comments or questions?
No.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to agenda item number 6, file number AB2 23-06? We have a motion to close by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any objection? Motion passes. Roll call vote.
No, you gotta read it.
No, who's going to read it? I'm sorry, Councilman Carlson.
I'd like to move file number AB 23-06, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration ordinance approving a special use permit SU2 for alcoholic beverage sales, small venue consumption on premise and package sales off premise consumption, making lawful a sale of beverages regardless of alcoholic content, beer, wine, and liquor at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 6401 North Florida Avenue, as more particularly described in section 3, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict are repealed, repealing ordinance number 2013-106, providing effective date.
A motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Carlson?
Yes.
Goulds?
Yes.
Viera?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Citro?
No.
Motion carried with Citro voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 16, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
File number AB 223-07.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 7 is AB 22307 for property located at 4308 West Gandy Boulevard. The request is for a small venue, beer, wine, and liquor, consumption on premise only. The use is a bar lounge. Approximately, for a total approximate, there is some indoor and outdoor space for 2,628 square feet. The subject site is required to have 148 parking spaces. A design exception was previously approved to only require 105 parking spaces. And the proposed operation will be consistent with Chapter 14. The subject property is located within the mixed-use corridor village, and the distance separation requirements is 250 feet from residential uses and other AB sales establishments. The applicant is requesting one waiver to reduce the required distance separation to other AB sales establishments from 250 feet to 0 feet. The adjoining building has that AB sales. And I'm going to give you an overview of the site. So shown here is the subject site, south of Gandy, east of Manhattan. And this is facing...
Can we
Get
see?
full.
I'm sorry?
IT, thank you very much.
Oh, it didn't show up. Okay. All right, so this is directly south of Gandy. This is the subject site. Directly east of the subject site, you can see that adjoining building. West of the subject site. And this is probably directly north of Gandy. Staff did find it inconsistent based on the waiver requested. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff?
What was the waiver that was requested?
To reduce the distance separation from 250 feet to 0 feet for other AB sales establishments, because there is an existing one, even though it appears from pictures that use has ceased. At one time, it was a Carrabba's Takeout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because I know there's, from the pictures I saw,
Right.
There's a Wendy's and then there's a Walmart. So it's not,
Right,
it's all commercial, it's not a
the Value
residential.
Pawn, it has the AB current active.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but I know it's all commercial. They're going deep into the.
I apologize. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
there was the Carrabba's next door, the
Is there?
Outback Carrabba's.
I'm so sorry. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah, but I know
Yeah.
that the properties are deep and residential is pretty far away.
I don't have a picture of it.
Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry.
Any other comments or questions? Petitioner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Mark Bentley, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa, 33602, and I represent the applicant, Mr. Jeff Barnes, who's seeking an S2 special use permit to allow for a small venue at the subject property. Similar to the last case you heard, this property is already wet zoned for beer and wine. So if this is successful, it would add a liquor component to the use at the property. The property is generally located at the southeast quadrant of Manhattan and Gandy, which could be characterized as a very intense, highly commercialized area of Tampa. For example, north of the site is McDonald's and Gandy Boulevard and Public Shopping Center and Scan Design. To the east is Value Pawn and Walmart. To the south is a mini storage in a parking lot. And to the west is, like Mr. Maniscalco indicated, a Jiffy Lube and a Wendy's. So it's very commercial in this area. Notably, no waivers are being sought in connection with your land development code site regulations in terms of parking and things like that. The only waiver being sought is to the vacant tenant space next door, which used to be a Carrabba's Takeout, which is still active. What I'd like to do is just go through a few graphics to demonstrate compliance with both the general and special standards and justification for the waiver being sought tonight. Here is subject property. It's about 4,000 square feet of tenant space. As I mentioned, you can see some of the commercial uses in the direct vicinity of the subject property. Here's the property. You can Value Pawn, Outback, Wendy's, Jiffy Lube, etc. What this map depicts are existing active ABs approved by the City of Tampa. And here's the subject site. Here's the tenant space in question. The proposed AB request relates to this tenant space right here. There's going to be a 400 square foot outdoor area on the west side of the location. Here's the Carrabba's that was closed out, Carrabba's Outback Carryout. Okay, however, that AB is still active. In preparation for the hearing, I was just curious as to the council's policy with respect to granting waivers for as they relate to AB to AB. And so we reviewed city council actions in the year 2022 relating to 23 AB2 requests that sought waivers, and a total of 8 of the 23 received the waiver, and 8 of those, 4 included residential uses. So it appears council policy is to grant a waiver unless there's a compelling reason not to do so, based on our research. With respect to AB establishment hours, a survey of the surrounding uses, the existing ABs, indicates that all have been approved consistent with Chapter 14, which is being sought by the client tonight. In summary, the request meets the intent of the LDC regarding the general and specific standards. It will not set a precedent. It's consistent with land development regulations regarding site development. It's compatible with the existing zoning pattern, development character of the area, and it's received community support. We received 3 letters in support, and I believe 1 from Ms. Pointer, and hopefully they filter down to your offices. That concludes the presentation, unless you have any questions. Sure.
Any comments or any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Maniscalco.
I'll ask it before someone else
No,
does.
no, I've already got this prepared.
No. Do you have any outdoor amplified music?
Okay.
There will be outdoor amplified music, but it will adhere, all activity will adhere to the City of Tampa noise ordinance. And here again, if you know this area, I think that's probably there's no residential properties that would be impacted. Gandy Boulevard you probably couldn't hear the music over all the traffic on Gandy and the elevated expressway. Then we have a Jiffy Lube and a Wendy's next door with a squawk box or speaker to make orders. So it's a tiny area with a couple tables, and there will be probably a couple speakers out there, but it will adhere to the City of Tampa noise ordinance.
Thank you. Sorry. No.
Any other comments or questions? May I ask, is Mr. Manassi with you?
Well, I'm with him.
Is Mr.
He's the man, Councilman.
Is Mr. Manassi going to be speaking?
If you'd like to have him speak.
Would you please come up to the podium? I just have a burning question.
Of course, Brian Manassi for the record.
Are you old enough to be talking about alcohol?
I think the word got out.
I mean, let me ask you, how old are you?
I am 40 years old today. Thank you. And happy to be here with so many people I worked with for so many years. I don't have many friends, so it's great.
We bought him a bottle of scotch for his birthday.
It's going home with me.
All right, enough, sit down.
Okay.
If we have any other questions or comments for the petitioner? Yes. Anyone in the audience, in the chambers, wish to speak to agenda item number 7, file number AB 23-07? Do we have anybody online? Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Thank you. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number AB 23-07. Ordinance being for first reading, presentation, consideration. An ordinance approving a special use permit SU for alcohol beverage sales, small venue consumption on premise only, and making lawful the sale of beverage regardless of alcohol content, beer, wine, and liquor, at or from that certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 4308 West Candy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 3, providing that all ordinance or parts of ordinance and conflicts are repealed, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda.
I know what Ms. Johnson-Velez is going to say.
Sorry, Susan Johnson, Velez Legal Department. There is the repealing AB 1 18-35 as part of the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ordinance repealing AB 1/18/35, providing an effective date.
Thank you, sir.
You threw me a curveball. Oh, you got me.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor, roll call vote.
Boots,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson, Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on March 16, 2023 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, City Council. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Happy birthday. Okay.
Going to bed.
Information and reports. Councilman Carlson. Councilman Maniscalco.
Nothing, sir.
Councilman Vieira, do you have anything?
Yes, sir, just one, if I may. I move for a workshop on Bush Boulevard, including.
We can't hear you.
We can, if you could bring up his volume, please.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I move for a workshop on Bush Boulevard, including speeding on Bush Boulevard, and different mobility issues for Bush Boulevard, and including asking FDOT to come for workshops, let's say in, let's do June, please.
That would be June 22nd.
That it would be, thank you.
We have a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
That's it, thank you, sir.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I'd like to make a motion to have Stephen Benson coordinate with staff and report on funds that are collected by the city that are related to trees, specifically 1, how many different funds exist? 2, how much money is collected in each? 3, what are the expenditures in each? 4, the average contribution to each fund. 5, how many trees are purchased and planted in each fund, or from each fund. 6, the cost of maintenance of the trees. And 7, anything else that money is spent on from each fund. I spoke already to Stephen, and I'm going to have him report back on April 20th in staff reports, reporting on fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Motion passes. Councilman Goode.
Yes, sir, that the Tampa City Council give accommodation to the Mazda Nazara for the 5th annual awards banquet. Be given off site February 24th. That's tomorrow. They've got the colonel that will be guest speaker tomorrow, and I'll be the presentation.
Motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion passes.
I need to run to the Elmo right quick, gentlemen. Yes. Gentlemen, can you see that?
Nope. Yes.
We can.
The public cannot.
Correct. So, this week, as I was doing my travels in the city, there was supposed to be a meeting for the mobility over at Tampa Heights. As I came across, I saw this small little sign on the roadway as I was putting out some signs. This is what I'm talking about that's unacceptable because people can't see that. And you're talking about a meeting for the community, they just can't see that. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that staff report back for information regarding any type of zoning as it relates to enlargement of the signs for the right-of-ways, for any and all type of City of Tampa communication for meetings, and to be brought back in the staff report, if they can, March 2nd.
Second.
That shouldn't
Wait,
take long.
excuse me, I'm sorry if I can. That's a one-week meeting? That's a one-week motion, March 2nd?
Yeah, this is for signs, they could be able to bring that back.
Well, okay, general.
I'll give them 2 weeks, how about that? What do you have, Ms. D?
We have CRA.
You have
So,
CRA
what,
following week?
16.
16.
Yeah, do it.
And again, Mr. Goods, your motion, just to be clear, goes beyond zoning, goes to community meetings as well.
Yes, because the community, they don't know what's going on, and it upsets me when I can drive by it, I can see beautiful Commissioner Gwen Myers' face on a corner, a big old sign with a community date, time. It's embarrassing that we're not doing the same thing that they're doing.
Yep.
It's embarrassing.
Okay, there's a motion made by Councilman Guth, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Yes.
Councilman Miranda? Nothing.
You got it?
No, I don't. Without object, motion to receive and file by Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Without objection.
Don't lose a quorum. No quorum. Come on, quick.
We're adjourned.